Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session, Tools to Enable UN Member States at National and Local Level to use Earth observations to help deliver Sustainable Development Goal 11 on sustainable cities and communities and the new urban agenda. This session has brought together representatives from national statistical offices, UN agencies, indigenous communities, and representatives from the Earth observations community to share experiences and perspectives on how Earth observations can and already do support sustainable urban monitoring, tracking, and implementation processes at country and city level. Our panelists have also discussed the ongoing efforts of the Group on Earth Observations and UN Habitat through consultation with countries and cities from across the world to develop a knowledge resource on Earth observation uses for urban-related topics, the Earth Observations Toolkit for Sustainable Cities and Communities. And so my name is Kavvada, and I serve as the lead for Sustainable Development Goal activities at NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and I also serve as the Executive Secretary for the EO for SDG initiative within GEO. I will be moderating today's session with Marc Paganini, and so I will now hand it over to Marc to introduce himself and the panelists for today's session. Marc, over to you.
Thanks, Argy, and hello to everybody. I would like first, of course, to thank you and Robert for inviting me to moderate this session. My name is Marc Paganini. I'm a technical officer at the European Space Agency, working in the Science Applications and Climate Department of the ESA Directorate of Observation Programs. And I would like, first of all, to introduce the panelists who are with us today. Unfortunately, not all panelists were able to join the debate. And I would like also to acknowledge all those who could not be with us today. If you want to know more about them, about all the panelists and the presenters, you can find their full bios on the site of the World Data Forum. So we have today a number of very good panelists, I must say. We have Thomas Kemper, who leads the Global Human Settlement Layer projects in the Disaster Risk Management Unit of the Joint Research Center from the European Commission. We have Robert Chen, the director of the Center for International Earth Science Information Network, better known as CISIN, which is a unit of the Earth Institute of the Columbia University. We have Monica Kufer, an assistant professor at the Faculty of Geo, Information Science and Earth Observation, better known as ITC, which is part of the University of Twente. We have Tilek Faisal, a research scholar at the Center for Earth Observation and Citizen Science of the International Institute for Applied System and Analysis, YASA. And we have Samira Wada, the head of the Regional Statistics Department in the National Statistics Office of Tunisia. And we have also Sandra Moreno, the technical director of the Geostatistical Divisions of the National Administrative Department of Statistics in Colombia, better known as being DANE. So before starting this debate, I would like to congratulate all the panelists for your inspiring presentations. You all show very well the importance of Earth observations in urban development strategies and policies. We can summarize your presentation by saying that sustainable urban development requires some evidence-based and data-driven approach, which implies an access to reliable, timely, and continuous observations everywhere in the world. You show that the integrations of these geospatial information and Earth observations with traditional statistics are becoming a fundamental requirement for countries to achieve the ambitious goals of the new urban agenda and of the sustainable development goals. But you also stress the fact that the institutional and technical challenges that countries and cities are facing need to be really addressed when we try to harness the power of Earth observation in the countries. So during this debate, we would like to discuss with you how we can enable countries and the local communities to embrace Earth observation technology in their process and systems, and how we can also enhance their capacities. So we'll ask the first question to Thomas. Thomas, you said during your presentation that one of the objectives of the Geo Human Planet Initiative and also the Global Human Settlement Footprint is to provide global scale data and knowledge to advance the understanding of societal processes inside cities. Can you better explain how this global data set can be used in a national or city context?
Yes, thank you, Marc. Well, in the past, obviously, global data, everybody thinks immediately, this is coarse data. This you can use for climate modeling, maybe to understand climate changes at a global scale, but this is useless when it comes to analysis of national situation or even at the city level. But luckily, we are experiencing now a dramatic change on the landscape. So we have a lot of free and open data that is coming up. That is, on the one hand, provided also by citizens that support initiatives like OpenStreetMap, where people are start digitizing roads and houses, etc. But also on the Earth observation side, there's a lot of improvement, where now we have free and open data at a scale that provides information also at the local level. And this is really where the Human Planet Initiative tries to chip in. It tries to combine all those sources to have globally harmonized information that still provides information also at the local level, so down really to the city level.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. And I have a similar questions to Bob. Bob, you work more on the population data sets. And so can you share an examples of what the great population data sets that you are developing and that are available in every part of the world have been applied to inform urban sustainability at a national or city level?
Thanks, Marc. Yeah, there's many cases where people are starting to see the value of these kinds of population data sets and related information at the urban scale and certainly within countries. Our center has been working with an international project called the Geo-Referenced Infrastructure and Demographic Data for Development project, which is working in at least 10 countries in Africa. And they've been making a lot of progress in applying these data for a whole range of sustainability issues, including many of the large cities, but also smaller settlements. So the data is being used in vaccine campaigns, in planning water sanitation, planning access to schools, and to make sure that schools are accessible to populations around the country. So there's, I think, a lot more realization that these data can be employed at the local scale. They can be improved with local data, as well as using these global resources.
Thanks, Bob. I give it, yeah.
Yes, great. So for next, Sandra, over to you. I wanted to ask you a question. So one of the items that you mentioned in your presentation was about the need to have a platform that allows countries to investigate different international methodologies which can be applied to help inform a specific indicator, for example, and a specific SDG indicator, and to share best practices. And so I wanted to ask you what type of computing environment, in your opinion, would be needed for such an analysis and also for knowledge sharing, and how do you see the Earth Observations Toolkit for Sustainable Cities and Communities effort contributing toward this regard?
Thank you, Argy. Yes, it's important that provides to the countries and documents that explain the concepts, the methods that could be used. But also it's important to share algorithms or scripts that allows to replicate or adapt to provide information that help to reproduce these calculations. So it's important to provide documentation and scripts and algorithms. And in this context, I consider that it's important that the Earth Observation Toolkit for Sustainable Cities contribute to these efforts to collect these official methods and provide these scripts with documents that help to understand how these scripts work and how these scripts could be adapted for each country, depends on its needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. So the next question is from Monica. So Monica, you talked about the necessity to have open source algorithms and models in addition to open data. Can you explain why an open source framework is so important and how the Earth Observations Toolkit for Sustainable Citizen Communities can promote such open source frameworks for more effective exchange of knowledge?
Thanks for the question. Also in line what we have been discussing already, I'm working particularly on the indicator 1111 on slums, informal settlements, inadequate housing. And what you see is that there is very limited data at the local level available. That's also what could be observed when we now faced the COVID-19 outbreak, that data were urgently needed at a local scale, but not available. Data are developed at research labs, and I think a lot of great data is there, and also using free and open source frameworks. We need really a platform to exchange those, and to exchange those within the community of Earth observation experts, but also link in the local level where you have really the users and understand really how can we make data fit for purpose. How can we also make algorithms available to fit local data needs? And I think this initiative we are starting is a local cities and municipalities to understand what is actually the opportunity of such data.
Great, Monica. Thank you very much.
But we typically share image data.
Okay. Yes, there was a little bit of a technical issue there at the end, but I think your message was well heard. Thank you. Marc, over to you for the next set of questions.
Thanks, Argy. Yeah, we have the questions actually to Dilek now. During your presentation, you demonstrated that there is a great potential to complement Earth observation data with citizen science data for better monitoring the SDG 11, and you give a very good example on SDG 11.71 on open public space. In your opinion, how do you think how can the Earth Observation Toolkit for Sustainable Cities and Communities that we are developing together can help cities embracing this crowdsourcing approach if they don't have any experience with it, which is, I think, the case for many countries and cities?
Thank you, Marc, for the question. Well, crowdsourcing or citizen science more generally has the potential to complement Earth observation approaches by providing local perspectives through ground knowledge and interaction with the local communities and stakeholders. Therefore, it could produce up-to-date, accurate, and timely data considering the local context, which is very important. And this is complementary to Earth observation data. Therefore, we plan to include relevant citizen science data sets, tools such as the ones I mentioned in my presentation, and also successful examples to this toolkit. If we look at the current landscape of citizen science, we would see that many of these initiatives are at the local and community levels. They are more bottom-up because of that, and this is very relevant to cities. And most cities are already very well aware of that and want to work towards involving citizens and communities more actively in decision-making processes. But they need to know how and where to start to realize this untapped potential of citizen science, both as a source of data, but also as a means to address the societal challenges they face. So that's why our toolkit will also promote citizen science approaches to complement Earth observations data. And we expect cities, because of that, to embrace these approaches along with Earth observation data. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dilek. Actually, I will ask the last questions to Samira, because Samira, you represent a bit the end-user communities, if I can call you like this. You highlighted during your presentation the need for countries to test and adapt Earth observation methods and tools to their local specificities, that means to the national and city context. Can you give us some examples of the evaluation criteria that you've been using to test the usability of Earth observation products and tools in a local context?
Thank you, Marc. In fact, in our case, we have used Earth observation methods and tools as part of the pilot project on only 2 cities, at least Tozeur and Monastir. The results of the study obtained were satisfactory for most of the representatives of the various administrations in the 2 pilot cities under study. The people are mostly connoisseurs of the context of their cities. It's true that this kind of tools based on the observation of the Earth aren't commonly used for them. On the contrary, it is a new technology, but that doesn't prevent that the results presented aroused interest and rigorous evaluation of their part. For example, the representatives of the 2 cities were very satisfied of the results concerning the boundaries of the 2 cities. They all know that the administrative boundaries don't coincide with the real boundaries of the city. And the fact that they used the definition based on the built-up extent, it was appreciated because they already know that the city has grown, of course, but the people that have built housing outside the city are still being considered as part of the population. So, in my opinion, I think that the most important criteria for evaluating the quality of Earth observation tools is, in the first instance, the appreciation of decision makers and connoisseurs of the specify of the area itself. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Samira. Maybe just a very quick questions on the toolkits that we are developing together with UN Habitat. How would such a knowledge sharing resource support your activities in applying Earth observation for urban sustainability?
The availability of expert Earth observation resources, adequate tools, and good practices can greatly assist in monitoring the urban sustainability of cities. For example, for our case, we didn't use the toolbox, but I think that a complete tool that simplifies the task of technicians and lightens their workload can only be beneficial. The fact that the toolbox makes it possible to bring together all the means and tools necessary for monitoring urban sustainability may, in my opinion, encourage governments, agencies, cities, and technicians to start the work of calculating urban indicators for all the cities of the country and at regular intervals. This is my opinion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Samira. Over to you, Harji, to conclude the session.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much to all of you and for participating in this panel, also for your very informative presentations. I want to thank, in addition, Robert Dugwa from UN Habitat and Stephen Ramage from the Group on Earth Observations for helping organize this session, and Robert for your introductory remarks as well. Thank you also to you, Marc, for your great efforts to making this session possible. Of course, we also want to thank all of you for listening, and like everybody in this forum, we would have preferred to meet you in person in Bern, but given the current pandemic, we were not able to do that, but we're very happy that we were able to convene virtually and share some of these experiences and messages. We would like to encourage the audience to share your questions and reach out to the meeting organizers, moderators, as well as the panelists. A lot of the connecting details are included in the presentations and will also be provided through the UN World Data Forum webpage. So please do reach out with additional questions if you would like to know how you can get involved and become part of some of these efforts and initiatives that you've heard about. Please let us know and we would be delighted to converse with you. So with that, thank you very much, everyone, and we will conclude our session for today. Thank you.